So if you missed that, I'm VN Times editor Rachel Buzzell.
And I'm Vet Times editor James Westgate. And on what's shaping up to be the coldest night of the year, very warm welcome to Happy Hour. This event is brought to you in association with Bought by Many Pet Insurance. Bought by Many acknowledge that some pets need a specialist diet and can sometimes require these diets for life. This can be a huge commitment for their owners, so they offer their customers cover prescription diets up to the value of £200 per policy year. So thanks to Bought by Many.
Yep, thank you, Bought by Many. As I said, welcome to another Happy Hour event. We've got another jam-packed power hour for you this evening, and we're going to be delving into the topic of nutrition and obesity.
It's certainly a big subject, and to help us do that, we're delighted to be joined by Nicola Lakeman, back in our main interview slot this evening. Nicola is head medical nurse at Plymouth Veterinary Group and has just completed her master's degree in advanced veterinary nursing with the University of Glasgow. She has expertise in the fields of nutrition and nursing clinics and was the first VN in the UK to gain the veterinary technician speciality, VTS, in nutrition, also a published author on this subject. Hello, Nicola.
Welcome back, Nicola. And,
Hi.
Hello. And Nicola will then be joined by Georgia Woodsley and Jessica Joosse on the discussion panel. Georgia is a Royal Canin weight management clinic nurse at the University of Liverpool Small Animal Teaching Hospital, where she deals exclusively with obesity care and nutrition. She gained her certificate in canine and feline veterinary health nutrition in 2017 and her VTS in nutrition certificate in 2019.
And we're going international tonight as Jessica, our third panelist, joins us all the way from Melbourne, Australia, where I believe it's about 6 o'clock in the morning. Jessica, so I hope you're bright and wide awake.
Yep, that's right.
Thanks for coming. Jessica became one of the very few Australian veterinary nurse and technician registered veterinary nurses in 2019 and obtained accreditation in 2020. She created her website, nutritionrvn.com, to reach more pet owners and vet professionals, enabling them to learn more about animal nutrition, and is studying for her VTS in nutrition.
What a panel, my goodness, I cannot wait to get chatting with you all. But before we get started, we also need to remind you of the prizes up for grabs tonight.
So for tonight, for a chance to win a £50 voucher, we want you to share with us a picture of your pet with their favourite treat. We've already had a few entries, but we just want you to send in your pictures to the usual email address, which should be on the screen. If not, Rachel, what is it?
It's happyhour@bbd.co.uk. So if your pet has a particular food treat or perhaps a toy that they're absolutely crazy about that only comes out on special occasions, get that picture over to us for your chance to win that voucher.
Fantastic. And we'll also be naming the winner of this month's Pay It Forward prize and announcing the two winners of the ever popular Top Tips competition. They keep flooding in. So that's been a great one again this month for us.
Yeah, and also this month we're doing something a little bit different. We don't have our breakout sessions this month. As it's a topic we know that you can really get stuck into, we will be giving you guys the chance to ask more questions at the end of the panel discussion.
That's right. Get ready to submit your questions for Nicola, Georgia and Jessica. You can do that through the chat facility on here, and you'll get the chance to ask some live questions tonight.
Yeah, so make sure you get involved because we will be picking a winner at random for a £25 voucher. So yeah, get involved. We're going to love to hear from you.
Should top up the Christmas shopping money quite nicely, I'd have said. Yeah. So before we get started, please don't forget Happy Hour is all about you guys. Please engage in the chat. If you're feeling shy, please feel free to direct message myself, Rachel or Katie, and we can post on your behalf or answer any questions. Also, get on social media and share #VN Happy Hour.
Right, yep, that's right. So like we said, get chatty. We love to see what you've got to say. And should we get started?
I think that's a very good idea, Rachel. So Nicola, welcome back. You're fast becoming a VN Happy Hour veteran. I hope you're feeling ready for these questions. We've had a stack in. It's a massive subject. So first of all, a nice simple one for you. But why do you think obesity in pets has become such a big problem in recent years?
Well, I'm going to say obesity is as much about behavior as it is about nutrition. And obviously, you know, we've had huge population expansion with all these cats and dogs coming on board. So yeah, we are going to see more. We've had lots of changes with lockdown and so on and so forth. So I know myself working from home, you just walk to the fridge, don't you? You go to the fridge and you keep on eating. And I know myself, when my partner's at home, he works at sea, but when he's here, the dogs put on weight. As soon as he goes back to sea, they lose weight. So I think more people working from home doesn't help. You know, they look at you with such sad little eyes, don't they? And they just want those bits of food. So I think it is increasing. I think the favoritism in breeds sometimes, that alters, population changes alter as well. We're seeing more little dogs. Little dogs are more prevalent to putting on weight than larger breeds. It's so multifactorial. There's so many elements to that.
Mm-hmm. And just from me on this, really, I mean, you mentioned the fact that there are so many pets have been bought, which would suggest to me there's a lot of new pet owners out there. I mean, maybe there's a lot of people who don't really get it, and as you say, they give them the big puppy dog eyes, and they're straight to the fridge and giving them what they want. Yeah,
I think there's some amazing statistics to say this whole population explosion, these pandemic puppies. Don't forget our cats. There's been a bigger rise in cat numbers than there has in puppy numbers. The majority of them are actually from first-time pet owners. So these are non-experienced pet owners. So I think you're completely right there, James. It's that not knowing as well.
And well, it's nice to be right for a change, Nicola, so thanks for that. But second question, would you agree that vet nurses have the most important role to play in tackling the problem? If so, why?
I'm going to say no. I actually think everybody has a role to play in obesity. It's not just the vet nurses. We're part of the veterinary team where, you know, it's a vet team. It's not just the vets on their own, the nurses on their own. Receptionists play a massive role in talking to clients. They really, really do. So everybody has an important role to play. It's not just the vet nurses. I'm going to say most of my clients that I see probably spend more time talking to receptionists, talking to people on the phone, you know, our telephonists and stuff, than they actually do for that 15, 20 minute in the consult room, you know, with me. I know things have changed a little bit. We don't have as many people sat in reception waiting around as they used to, but everybody has a really, really important role to play.
And I guess those guys, the receptionist, front of house team, people on the phone, people are perhaps going to feel a little bit more relaxed about talking to them about some of these issues as well.
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, my receptionist, the owner comes in and say they're going to see the vet. It's the receptionist that weigh them. The weighing scales are out in reception, so it's a really good, you know, opportunity for them to talk to them about weight and you know, body condition score whilst they're out in reception.
Excellent. And like you say, it's a team effort, but why are vet nurses in such a good position to help tackle this particular problem?
Well, we obviously, in my practice, we have dedicated appointment slots purely to talk about obesity. You know, we have obesity clinics and so on. So, you know, it's a role that is delegated to nurses. And it's, you know, if I said to you, I could help increase the length of your life of your pet by fixing one little thing, would you do it? And I'm going to say everybody's going to say yes. So, you know, if I can help you fix that one thing that will help your dog live longer, your cat live longer, you would do it. So nurses are in a really good position to really help. You know, it's not just weight loss, it's quality of life, it's animal welfare as well.
Okay. And moving, I suppose, specifically away from just obesity, for the next question is, what have been some of the most significant advances in the world of pet nutrition during your career? Just a small question there for you. Feel free to expand on this one.
Small question, because I've been in practice since 1994, so it's a really long time. I'm going to say so much has happened in, I don't know how long that is. That's a very long time, isn't it? So we've mapped the genome, the canine genome. So we now know certain nutrients upregulate and downregulate certain genes. That's a massive, massive thing. You know, we've got cardiac diets now with special, you know, mixtures of medium chain triglycerides that we now know the fuel sources for, you know, heart cells and brain cells. We can actually, you know, help, you know, the progression of cardiac disease in some breeds of dogs. I think that's amazing. You know, these diets as well that can help reduce seizure activities in dogs. There's so many things, but I'm going to say I've been practicing for so long that there's probably a huge range to go over. But I think that's where nutrition is so amazing. Just something you can eat can make such a difference to your life and your health, which is amazing.
Mm. And yeah, I guess something that in my case, some of us humans probably should take on board a bit more. As well. I shouldn't be feeling so flat on a Thursday night if I ate a little bit better, but I digress. Has the issue of pet obesity become has become more of a problem during lockdowns, and why? Is it just lots of new owners, and why who don't know what they're doing effectively? I mean, we touched on this earlier on, but perhaps expand.
Yeah, it's so much. It's so multifactorial, isn't it? It is, you know, people, you know, working from home. There's more availability of food. New owners, you know, nurses aren't able to get in at ground zero. You know, how many puppy parties have been run during lockdown? We've been doing ours via Zoom, but it's not quite the same. So these touch points where we know we can help prevent obesity, so post-neuter checks, all of those, we weren't allowed to do post-operative examinations during lockdown. We could do them via Zoom, and, you know, we got clients to send pictures in, but it just wasn't the same as getting those animals on the weighing scales and teaching owners how to do body condition scores. So those touch points that we had, where we know we can help prevent obesity, reduce the prevalence of obesity, they were sort of gone. They were wiped out almost. So we do need to sort of get back on board and really just really push all of those things again, and just hopefully, you know, get the message through a lot more.
Yeah, just get that momentum going.
Yeah.
Sort of touching on that, moving on from that, what are some of your top tips for setting up a VN-led weight clinic? And what are the big do's and don'ts?
I think some of the big do's is you're there to provide motivation to that client. And when I don't know if anyone listening here has actually gone on a diet themselves, it's really hard work. It really is. It's horrible being on a calorie control diet. Just having someone there being your cheerleader and just, you know, promoting it and going, come on, you're doing really well. Anything like that. That's my number one top tip. And the way we provide that motivation is going to be very much dependent on that person. And there's loads of ways to do it. It's not just weighing the animal, it's measuring it. So I know myself, I will weigh the same, I know, on Monday one week compared to Monday the other week, but I might have lost a centimetre around my waist or something. And that's something we need to celebrate. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you might not have lost some weight, but you haven't gained the weight. To me, that's a positive.
So it's not just about what it says on the scales, it's about other things.
Yeah.
It's about being healthy. This is a really good question. We like this. I'm a young VN and know communicating issues around obesity can be really hard. Do you have any advice for me?
Yeah, I get lots and lots of people say they're worried about talking to people about being overweight or obese when the owner is overweight or obese. But trust me, as someone that is overweight, I can really empathize with the pets, you know, and I'm going to say owners are going to be the same. They can really understand what it's like being overweight and how difficult it is. And they know how it feels. So there is a little bit of, you know, projection almost, but don't be afraid to talk to owners that are overweight. They actually, I find, more motivated than those that aren't, because they get it. They really do understand it. So if you're just starting off in your clinics and, you know, you're worried about that, don't be.
I mean, I guess you can understand why it's a bit of a sensitive subject, especially from someone just starting out in their career.
Yeah.
Do you have any, this I suppose we're all meeting virtually tonight, this is quite a topical question, do you have any experience or advice for running a virtual weight clinic? I mean, that's one way of reaching out, isn't it?
Yeah, so we've been doing these throughout. We've been doing our puppy stuff online, all our post-operative exam, you know, everything we've been doing online as well. And actually I found it's been really useful for certain clinics. you know, those bladder cats and you want to have a nose around someone's house, you know, they can be really good. You can see where they put their litter tray. Those mobility dogs, you can see that they've got a shiny floor that doesn't have a rug on it. So those things are really, really good. And I tend to find that people are a lot more relaxed when they're in their own home. You get a different client almost via, you know, digital means than you do stood in front of you in the clinic. So they're a bit more relaxed. And when you're doing things like obesity clinics, you find out more. You know, they tell you all those little nuggets of information that they maybe wouldn't have done in that more formal setting. So I've found it's been really, really useful.
I guess, I mean, maybe a tougher one to promote to people. I mean, have you got any advice around that? How you get the word out that these things can happen? Because a lot of the new millennials now, they're now the biggest pet owning segment. That's how they want to engage increasingly. So, I mean, I guess there's challenges there in just getting that message out that you're doing that.
Yeah. Well, we've done some research into this, and we actually found it was weirdly more dog owners than cat owners wanted digital. And you would have thought it would be the cat people, but it wasn't. It was more the dog people. And we actually found, yes, millennials did, you know, want the online sort of services, but actually I think in the age group of 60 or over, it's something like 40% want digital as well. So don't think, oh, that's an older person, that they wouldn't want that being offered to them when they would. But we basically say to clients, you know, when they phone up for a nurse appointment, would you like, you know, an online or would you like in person? And, you know, we go from there really.
So don't forget the silver surfers.
Yes.
And what factors are important for recommending one type of food over another, and what are the benefits when it comes to preventing problems other than obesity? I mean, you touched on this before. I mean, obviously with the cardio diets and some of the neuro diets available, but I guess for trained veterinary professionals, you know, you speak that language. For, you know, it can be more of a challenge to communicate the benefits to lay people and owners.
Yes, I don't have a brand of food that I would, you know, go to. I think it's the same as pharmaceuticals. You know, you choose the food that's best for that patient that's in front of you. So it's very much taking that nutritional history. You know, do they prefer dry over wet over pouches? And some brands will only have it in a tin, whereas another brand might have the food, you know, like a renal food in chunks in gravy or something. So you really need to take a really good nutritional history and make your recommendation based on the animal that is in front of you. And I really do appreciate that in some veterinary practices that can be really difficult, because it is sort of almost dictated to them what brands of food that they can use. But I'm a big believer of, you know, we need to do what's best for that patient, really.
So it's a real bespoke approach then when it comes to that sort of discussion. How would you advise me as a VN to take the lead on nutrition in the practice? Again, that's interesting when we have that question come up quite a bit across different subjects, you know, just VNs taking the lead. And I guess this is one that a lot of our delegates would feel quite strongly about. But what advice would you give someone who's really looking to, maybe they weren't pushing this as much as they felt that they should be?
Yeah, so nurses are in a prime position to take the lead on nutrition, to let's call it champion nutrition within their practice. I think that's really important. So, you know, get to know your food, the food company's rep, and just not harass them. Please don't go out and harass them, but they're there to help you. They're there to give you all the resources that you need. And there's so many resources online that you can use as well. So if you want to champion nutrition, you've got to have the underpinning knowledge there as well. So, you know, what we learn in our RVN qualifications is brilliant, but, you know, look at extending that, look at doing certificates and CPD and so on. And again, it's very much about communication and working as part of the veterinary team. You're not going to do nutrition on your own. You have to be referred cases. You have to, you know, work as a team and go back and forth with the veterinary surgeon that's in charge of that case to do that. So it's a team thing. I'm a big believer. I work in a very big practice, and, you know, I like sharing knowledge. I don't like hoarding knowledge. We want to share it. We want everybody to take the lead on nutrition, not just one person in the practice, but you do need one person just to champion it and just keep reminding everybody every now and then.
And I mean, you've written numerous books on this subject, Nicola. I mean, it's a constantly, you don't just learn nutrition, walk away and that's it.
No.
I mean, there's stuff coming on, coming out all the time, isn't there?
Yes.
Okay, right. And sort of touching on that, my clumsy segue into the next question. Who has good resources I can refer clients to about diets for their new dog? I mean, obviously the manufacturers have, but what other resources are out there that you can refer people to go away, have a look, have a think?
Yeah, so I like resources that are not brand specific. So WSAVA has lots of resources, and they've got links to things like the Pet Nutrition Alliance. So they've got fabulous stuff out there about what to look for in a diet and so on. You know, there's things like ISFM, Cat Care, loads of information about diets for cats as well. So that's really good. But if people really want to know about specific brands of foods and what's in it, yes, make sure that, you know, they're going to that brand's website. But things like the PFMA, the Pet Food Manufacturers Association in the UK, would be my go-to place for that. Obviously, different countries have got different things. So in America, it'd be AFCO and so on and so forth. So there are, you know, resources out there for people.
Fantastic. And your final question, I'll let you off the hook after this one. But could you share some of your biggest success stories with obese patients to describe the sense of satisfaction you felt in helping clients achieve their goals?
Oh, it's a really difficult one. And I'll let you into a little tiny secret. I think I've probably over the last, you know, I've been working since 1994. I'm going to say I can count on maybe both hands the number of animals I've got to ideal body weight and stayed there. It's so few. Obesity isn't, you can't cure it. You don't go on the diet, become nice and thin and ta-da, you're done. It's something for life. It's a chronic medical, I don't know, condition, you know, disorder, whichever, you know, word you'd like you to use. You manage it forever. So I'm going to say some of my success ones are the ones that I see them for, it feels like forever. I do see them for years because we just keep going in all the time. And, you know, I'm weighing them monthly, and, you know, those are the ones that give you Christmas presents and things like that. So those are my, you know, biggest success ones. And I'm going to say some of the ones that I've been proudest of are actually the ones that maybe haven't lost the biggest amount of weight. It's the situation that, you know it's a difficult situation, but they've tried so hard and they succeed, even if it's just losing, you know, a few kilos. You know, that really big, really old arthritic dog, you know, that's 12, 13 years of age and, you know, having huge mobility issues, just losing a kilo for that, you know, those dogs makes so much difference. You're never going to get it to its ideal body weight. You don't have enough time left, but just improving the quality of life of that animal is I'm going to say one of my biggest successes.
It's a lovely answer and a great place to leave it, Nicola. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Fascinating stuff. You're kindly going to join our panel shortly, but before that, we have our monthly poll from our sponsors, Bought by Many. So hopefully we're going to have that appear sometime fairly soon. And if you could just get your fingers on your buzzers, as it were, and we'll run through these. So I've been told not really to touch the poll because
you're not allowed. You break it every time, James.
We've had some technical issues. Do you want to read them out?
We've got 5 questions for you people. So question number 1, do you regularly conduct weight clinics in your practice? So do share there, yes, no, or perhaps you're unsure. You might not know if you do. Number 2, are you confident discussing pet nutrition with clients? Yes or no? And then third question is, do you feel there is enough client awareness about the dangers of obesity? Yes or no? And number 4, would you like to see more nutrition related CPD? Yes or no? And perhaps in the chat, if you say yes, perhaps in the chat, say what type of things would you like to see? It's a very broad subject to say nutrition related. So is there anything specific that you would like to see? Do share in the chat. And number 5, have you seen a rise in pet obesity since the COVID pandemic and lockdown restrictions began? Yes, no, or unsure. And if it's not letting you submit polls, sometimes that happens on mobiles, if you're not updated your Zoom, then please do pop into the chat your questions. So for all of you that cannot poll, let's take the time now to put your answers into the chat. You put number 1 and then why or no or you. So yes, no, unsure. Do you regularly conduct weight clinics in your practice? Question number 1. Brilliant. So 1 and then why, N or unsure. Question number 2. So put 2 in. Are you confident discussing pet nutrition with clients? Yes, no. So Y or N. Number 2, are you confident discussing pet nutrition with clients? Number 3, do you feel there's enough client awareness about the dangers of obesity? So Y or N. Number 4, would you like to see more nutrition related CPD? So 4, yes. And finally, number 5, have you seen a rise in pet obesity since the COVID pandemic and lockdown restrictions began? Yes, no, unsure. So thanks, everyone. That's brilliant. And we've got some really great suggestions coming through as well with regards to the types of CPD that you would like to see as well.
A good poll there, and all the better for me not being involved this time, I think, Ebony. So thank you for that. And I'll just a little reminder while we finish off there, to make sure you get your challenge entries sent in to us for a chance to win that £50 voucher. We want pictures of your pet with their favorite treat, hopefully one that's going to meet the approval of our expert panel this evening. But get those sent in, and after we have our panel chat, which is coming up very shortly, we'll be announcing our Pay It Forward winners, our top tip winners, and the challenge winners as well, and also giving you guys a chance. You may have already got your questions sent in, but throwing it open for you guys to have the chance to answer some live questions. Our panelists have been very good to say that, but I think we're about ready for the panel discussion. So,
yeah, just once again, very quickly, that email is happyhour@bbd.co.uk.
Thanks for that, Rachel. I always get the email address, don't I? Right, are we done with the poll, Ebs?
Yep, all good, all done and all received. So thank you so much for that, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we're ready to go into our panel discussion now. So Jessica, we're coming over to you first. Hello again. Hope you're doing okay over there.
Yeah.
So what is the best kind of low impact exercise for older obese pets with a client on a restricted budget?
Yeah, I think that walking is really underrated. I think people think that it doesn't really do much, but if you're going on really sort of short, frequent walks, you can actually really improve both their mental and physical health, and that does still provide some sort of weight loss benefit. The other thing that I recommend is you can make your own enrichment toys. There's a lot of ideas online, which is, they're very cheap. You can use toilet rolls or, cardboard boxes, things like that. Even towels, wrapping kibble in towels. It still provides a bit more of that additional sort of having to work for their food. So even if you don't have a massive budget and it is an older pet that can't sort of run around or you can't throw a ball for them, they're still getting that activity that I suppose they wouldn't otherwise be getting.
Wonderful. I really like the walking one because we all know the benefits of getting out there for a walk, don't we? It's a great mood booster as well as for the weight control as well.
Yeah, and I guess from what you're saying there, Jess, as well, that, you know, it's about using your imagination a bit. I guess the question came in like that, as in on a restricted budget, but one would imagine that, you know, not having a lot of money shouldn't really impact on a kind of programs and exercise, low impact exercises you can get your pet to do.
That's right.
Excellent. Right, Georgia, question for you. How do you keep owners on track and compliant with restrictive diets for their pets?
Yeah, that old question of compliance, hey. So really for me, this starts in the groundwork. So this is all about getting to know your client, allowing your client to get to know you, having that real relationship with them. And so therefore continuity plays a part in keeping good compliance, because this is about the rapport and being the person that they come to if there's a problem. Because so often if people are running into problems and they don't feel they have a place to go or a person to ask, well, then things just kind of start slipping and they fall off the wagon. The other point with compliance is an owner's got to understand why they're doing something if they're actually going to go ahead and do it, especially if that's difficult. And of course, providing obesity care is difficult, weight loss is difficult. So understanding the very good reasons for their pet also. So what in their pet are they going to improve? How is their health going to be better? All this adds to the compliance. The other things, and sort of on a more practical level, it's seeing these patients and their owners frequently. I tend to see mine every 2 weeks whenever possible, because a lot can happen in even just 2 weeks. And again, if you're not there to solve those problems for you, you starting to get that compliance slipping. Sometimes it's not the owner who brings the pet in that is the one struggling with compliance. So I would then be looking at a family consultation, potentially speaking to other pet owners and members of the household, trying to understand why they might be finding it difficult in particular. And then it's things like using food diaries, sort of trying to get everyone on board with filling out the diary, making sure nobody's double feeding, that treats are being kept to what's recommended. And finally, the last thing that I would do to try and keep compliance is reward them. So this is the pet owner now. So giving certificates, you know, maybe giving, if you have some toys maybe, or just something where you can mark stages along the way and say, look, you know, you've done some good already. This is amazing. Well done. Keep going. And I think it's that probably that I would say is most important for keeping good compliance, is keep with them and see them frequently.
Can that be a challenge though? Just a thought, you know, once every 2 weeks. I mean, that's just for weight loss and obesity issues, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's definitely, it can be a challenge. I mean, lockdown has proven what a challenge that can be. But contact doesn't necessarily have to be face-to-face. It can be online, it can be text, phone, email. There's lots of ways of dropping in and having contact. Cat owners especially are much less willing to bring their cats into the practice. Cats don't like traveling and all that sort of thing. So for them, if the cat is particularly upset, I'm not going to ask them to come every 2 weeks. We might then explore weighing at home a little bit more. And certainly some dog owners will also be able to weigh at home. And so it's much more about keeping the updates coming in, keeping those little touches nice and regularly. But yes, it doesn't have to be very fixed to every 2 weeks you must turn up here.
Yeah, and another an area where the sort of sudden shift to digital, it could impart massive benefits, couldn't it?
Absolutely. It makes dropping in on people very easy, actually, and far less time consuming. I suppose where we are, and because it's a referral clinic, our referrals come from hours away sometimes, so they simply can't come that often. So being able to do it over Zoom means that we get much better contact with them. And they can see me and we can, you know, chat about what they were doing at the weekend and their holidays and all that sort of stuff, as well as whatever's going on with their pet.
Great stuff. Over to you, Rachel.
Thank you, James. So I'm coming back over to you, Jessica. Is fruit bad for dogs and cats, and can it contribute to obesity?
I would say no. I think it actually sort of can have the opposite effect. So I think a lot of people get wrapped up in that fruit contains sugar. Not all sugar immediately becomes fat. That's not necessarily how that works. What I tend to say to people is fruit is actually quite rich in moisture. when we add moisture into the diet, we're actually reducing the bulk of the diet. So you can actually increase fiber in that way as well. So fruit and vegetables mainly, if you remove a portion of if they're a dry fed pet, if you remove a portion of the dry food and you introduce fruit or a fresh vegetable or something like that, you're actually reducing the caloric density of that diet. So potentially you're actually reducing their weight or their food intake. So I would tend to go in the opposite direction, that it may actually not contribute to obesity. It depends how you're using it, but usually no, because it's not sort of immediately becoming fat.
Thank you. That's really interesting, because I think of fruit and automatically go to the sugar that you mentioned. So yeah, that's very interesting. Thank you.
How would you, I'm intrigued, because it's the one thing, if I'm ever eating fruit, particularly greedy husky, and she'll beg for pretty much everything. If it's a banana or an apple, she's not interested. How do you, in what form do you introduce fruit? Sorry if that's a layman's question, but I'm intrigued.
No, I would say, yeah, generally as a treat or something like that. So instead of clients giving sort of high fat treats, I would say maybe give a carrot, maybe give an apple slice, maybe give something like that. It's more so generally the crunch that they like, not necessarily the actual flavor or anything. So that's why I tend to say you can feed something that's low calorie, that's not necessarily going to have the same fat content, but it's still going to give them the same benefits or, interest in that treat.
My dogs love a carrot.
Yeah.
She'll eat carrots, but maybe I'll try on a toffee apple. That's a joke, obviously not. This one's for you, Nicola. What are your thoughts on raw diets? I knew this would come up, but what are your thoughts on raw diets for dogs? Can they help with controlling obesity?
So the problem with raw diets is that we don't have the evidence. The evidence base isn't there. So as a veterinary nurse, our code of professional conduct is the stuff we do is based around the evidence. So there's no evidence there to say one is better than the other. The problem with obesity is not what you eat, but a little bit more on how much you eat. And there was an amazing American, I cannot remember his name off the top of my head, who showed that you could lose weight purely by eating nothing but Twinkies. Literally nothing but Twinkies. Just as long as you eat less, you take in more calories than you burn off, you will lose weight. So,
teeth, I'd imagine, Nicola.
Yeah, probably. So, if you're doing that, and you've done all the maths, and you've done your RERs, and you've calculated the amount that's there, the benefit of the veterinary diets is that they make you feel fuller. And I tell clients this, I relate it to breakfast cereals. So if you eat your Cocoa Pops in the morning and you eat 200 calories of Cocoa Pops and you eat that at 7 a.m., I'm going to say by 7:25, I am hungry and I want something more to eat. If I eat 200 calories in porridge, that will keep me going until lunchtime. So as long as you eat less than you burn, you'll lose weight. But the nutrients that you take on board, they're there to help you feel fuller, so you don't feel miserable. Because we all know what it's like when you feel hungry, you feel miserable. And if you're like me and you're feeling miserable, you end up in the fridge, don't you? So it's really important that, we eat less than we burn off, but we're also, getting a good balanced diet as well. So that's where veterinary diets come in, because, they're balanced for eating lower calories, but getting all the nutrients that you want, the right types of protein, the right types of fat. That's really important. And then all the vitamins and minerals that go alongside that.
Yeah, and I guess with those diets, the thinking, the science has been done for you, and we all live increasingly busy lives.
Yeah.
So we're talking about issues of nutrition tonight, but
I mean, the thing to remember with raw feeding is we don't know how the nutrients work when they're cooked and not cooked and everything. But as a veterinary nurse, it's in my code of conduct that I have to be aware of One Health. I have to be aware of food safety as well. We know that some dogs that are raw fed have bacteria in their stools that are antibiotic resistant, which is a huge, huge problem. So it's not just about nutrition, it's about food safety, it's about preserving our antibiotics. It's a massive, massive subject. but we just need more studies. We need more and more evidence to know what is best.
So, excellent. Over to you, Rachel. Well handled, by the way, Nicola. So,
Thank you.
Thank you, James. So I'm coming over to you, Georgia. How much to reduce calorie intake for obese cats per 24 hours at the start of a diet for safe weight loss?
Yeah, this is a really good question, and I think it's one that gets asked an awful lot, because I'm assuming that what the question is referring to is the risk of causing hepatic lipidosis in cats when you put them on a restricted diet. Now, this is kind of entering into the sort of myths and urban legend kind of territory, because there is actually no evidence to suggest that simply putting a cat on a restricted weight management diet will cause hepatic lipidosis. And actually, hepatic lipidosis is a very complex disease in its own right. They believe that not only do you need you either need complete anorexia or very low food intake coupled together with another disease of some sort, so another disease process going on in the background. And it's only the combination of those two things that actually ends up in hepatic lipidosis. Providing the cat is eating around 40% or more of its daily nutritional requirement, hepatic lipidosis doesn't happen. And if we think what we need to do for our patients with obesity, well, we typically will reduce calories by 30 to 50%. So we're not really there on the under 40% at all, especially if we're working out our feeding amounts properly and that sort of thing. So to answer the question more directly, there's no reason to stage weight loss in that way. There's no need to sort of sweep into it or reduce so much in the first 24 hours and then move down to the amount. From the cat's point of view, from a hepatic lipidosis point of view, and certainly from my own experience, the weight management clinic, we have been putting cats on the correct amount of food straight away for almost 17 years now, and I can speak clearly that we have never had any problems with hepatic lipidosis, and we're very careful, of course, to stay above that 40% threshold, but we wouldn't be restricting to that degree in any case. It just wouldn't be safe from a nutrient point of view for anything else. So I think to come back round again and answer the question, I would go straight for the amount, and first 24 hours is going to be the same as next week.
That's a great answer, thank you. And it's just something I was thinking about while you were talking. When it comes to cats, how do you control an outdoor cat if they're going out and they're getting fed by someone down the road? I mean, that was just something that came to mind. Is there something, do you put a collar on them that says, please don't feed me? Are there ways around it to help that?
Yeah, they are. I mean, they're not always that effective. It really depends on the cats. Some of them are more persistent than others. So yes, there are do not feed me collars. They're a great idea. Sometimes you can lie a little bit and put a I'm diabetic collar on, because people might take more notice if they think they have a medical condition. That could potentially work. I often talk to my pet owners about keeping the cat in at the times that they are likely to go and get other sources of food. So if the lovely lady next door puts food out at 5 o'clock, well, then let's keep the cat in until 7, until that food is totally gone. You can, if you know where the sources of food are, go round to those houses and ask, look, please, I'm really trying to, improve the health of my cat. Please, could you not leave food or give food to that cat? But yes, and then the other thing is that they can do is go out and, kill small furries or small birds and, supplement themselves like that. However, most cats that are well fed at home kill much more from a behavioural point of view. And it's sport, it's that sort of thing. And even if they do consume it, the energy expended is often offset by what they're eating. So that doesn't cause too much of a problem unless they're very prolific. And again, if they are, I'd be keeping them in at dawn and dusk when they're most likely to be hunting, putting a cowbell on their collar, make sure everyone hears them coming. So there are things that you can do, but yes, they can be a challenge, but then cats always are.
Okay, thank you.
Just seen your post about pizza slices, Nicola. That would be a challenge. I guess it wouldn't be a problem if they brought them around for you, but yeah. Anyway, next question. For mild, we were talking about obesity and perhaps some of the the more extremes, but for mildly overweight patients, how can you best convey the benefits of being at a lower body weight to clients? And sorry, that's for you, Jessica.
Yeah, I think what Nicola said earlier was spot on, just talking to them about the fact that this is going to extend their life. We have research that shows if they're fed 25% less food than their siblings, they live 2 years longer. That's the studies that we've seen coming out of the Purina Institute. And I think even though they may seem mildly overweight, I think you have to think about relative to body size. So what might be 1 kilo for us might not be a lot, but 1 kilo on a Chihuahua is massive. So, even that very, very small amount of weight loss is going to have a really, really big impact on their health. And I think when you explain that to clients, that we're not looking at, dropping half their body weight, we're only looking at dropping a very small amount. And if we can try and get them to reduce even the slightest amount, you'll see an improvement. And a lot of the clients that I've had those discussions with later on, they've sort of gone, oh, we lost 300 grams, but he's running around like he never runs around. He's super excited. He's happy. He just looks a lot more vibrant. Even though it was such a small amount of weight loss, I suppose in our eyes, that had a massive impact on that patient. So.
Yeah, I guess it's all relative rather, so much in life. Over to you, Rach.
Thank you, James. So I'm coming over to you, Nicola. So how often should we do check-ins with weight loss patients?
I think what Georgia said was perfect. I tend to see them every couple of weeks, but in my initial obesity clinic with them, I asked them at the very beginning, how often can you come in? Yeah. What's the best way for me to contact you? Are you happy to do some of this on phone? All of these sort of things. Find out what works well for them, because if you do what works for you, it might not work. You want to do what works for the owner, and try and fit in around that. And it might be the case that they can only contact you on a Thursday evening, and you might not work Thursday. So in my practice, I would hand that over to someone else. I want the best for that patient. So yeah, we aim for every 2 weeks. But again, it could be that we see them every other, so we'll see them once a month, but in between we'll phone them, we'll email them, text them, whatever works best for them, really.
So just keeping those lines of communication open. Yeah.
And Georgia, this is another one for you, kind of linked to a previous answer you've given, actually. So we've talked about, when do you come at the start? You gave your answer, but when do you start increasing the food amount to maintain a stable weight and prevent further weight loss?
Yeah, so I suppose the first question is, when do we end weight loss? And I think, on the face of it, it goes, well, when they're at their ideal weight. But actually, that isn't necessarily the case. And I think, Nicola, you touched on it, actually, that sometimes this is just about doing what's right for the individual, making them feel better. If you can only get a kilo off, but you've improved their health, well, then wonderful. That's where we end the weight loss. The other thing that we should think about is when we have concurrent disease alongside obesity, and that is very frequent, and certainly the cases that I see, around 80% of them have something else going on. And there is a theory being explored in people known as the obesity paradox that talks about, in the face of progressive concurrent disease, so that's things like renal disease, cancer, cardiac disease, patients tend to do better if they have a degree of obesity. And this is because they've got some reserves, and these types of diseases tend to use up those reserves. And so survival and quality of life and that sort of thing is actually better if you have a little bit of left in reserve. The same has also been found in dogs. And so it's a theory worth considering, that for some, we might be wanting maybe just 15 or 20% of weight loss. No, they're not going to be at their ideal weight, but we shouldn't take them there either. They're going to need those reserves later on when their disease, sadly, is going to eventually progress. To answer the question maybe a little more directly about what we start to do in maintenance, once we've decided we have had enough weight loss, whether that's the owner's done or we've reached our points, we then need to start increasing the food. And what I would do is increase in increments of 5% and see what happens. So up 5%, weigh them in a couple of weeks, see if the weight's gone up or down. Depending on what's happened, we'll then increase it again. maybe up to 10%. And typically in maintenance, the calorie amount is around 10% above what it was during weight loss. And on top of that is to weigh them really regularly during weight maintenance, because actually weight maintenance is harder than weight loss, because this is forever. As Nicola said, you know, there is no cure, there is no quick fix. They have got to be concentrating on this for the rest of this pet's life. So I think, yes, weighing regularly is the best way that they're going to stop weight gain if we can.
I guess if you don't measure it, you can't control it. So one of the old
Absolutely.
adages, but over to you, Rachel.
Thank you. Okay, this one's for you, Jessica. It's back to raw feeding. If a dog is on a raw diet, how do you tackle this with obesity?
Yeah, I think similar to Nicola, I mean, personally, I don't recommend raw diets. So if a client is on a raw diet, I generally start with a conversation about that. I generally talk to them about if they're aware of the risks and if they are willing to switch to something that might be more suitable for that pet, whether that's a weight loss diet or something different. There are other options for raw diets, like a freshly cooked diet or a freeze-dried raw diet that may be less risky. So I generally talk to them about that first. And it's also a bit easier to control intake if they're on something like that can be better measured. With raw diets, the reason I tend to see obesity in these patients is more so from the organ meat. It's very high in fat. So I generally talk to them about that potentially if they don't want to switch, we might need to look at a different recipe, one that isn't maybe so high in fat, something that may contain a little more fiber, because generally raw diets contain a very, very low amount of fiber. So we may need to increase that and maybe reduce the organ meat and maybe just pick a recipe that's not as fatty. But I think it's again, like Nicola said, it is a lot to do with intake. It's, again, you could eat whatever you like, but if you're eating too much of it, you're going to gain weight. So something that you can at least measure is usually the best way that I try and go with this.
Okay, so again, communicating with that client, giving them their options.
Yeah, exactly.
And here's a good one for you, Nicola. Do you have any tips for stubborn clients who say they're doing everything you suggest, but their pet still isn't losing weight?
It's a tricky one, because you can't turn around and call them a liar, can you?
If you want the business.
No, you really can't. So, you know, things like keeping diaries, there's, you know, digital means, you know, I had one gentleman who was just, you know, a really lovely old man, and he could barely walk. He, you know, he had crutches and real mobility issues, but he swore blind to me that he walked his dog 8 miles a day. And I was a bit, okay. And so I said, show me on the map where you walk. And he showed me, and I was like, 800 meters tops. So they're not necessarily trying to deceive you or not tell you the truth, but people's perceptions of how much food they feed or how much exercise they do is very, very different. It really, really is. So these digital apps you can get to monitor, you know, how far you've walked, or how far the, you know, GPS trackers on pets' collars to see how much they're moving. You know, that they're going to tell you the real story. But, you know, there's lots of little things we can do like that. Just getting people to record things can be easier. But sometimes when it comes to losing weight, and we know in people for losing weight, if you really, really, really want to do it, then you will. If you're sort of half-hearted, not too sure, I know this when, you know, back in the early, like I say, late 90s, when I gave up smoking, you're only going to give up if you really want to. And I did. But it's the same with anyone. When you want to give up something or you want to change your habit or something, you've really got to want to do it. And I will say to clients, when it comes to weight loss for their pets, are you 100% committed to this? And if they say to me, oh, I'm moving house next week, or I'm about to have a baby, or some big life event like that, sometimes it might be easier just to postpone starting the diet until after they got over that hurdle, and then we can hit it full force, you know, when they are mentally prepared to do it, you're more likely to succeed. If they're not likely to succeed, then you fall at the first hurdle, then they're less likely to pick up again and carry on. So don't just let them walk out the room and do nothing. Timetable it, put it in the calendar, 6 weeks time, I'm phoning you and we're going to get going. So there are things that we can do.
Timing is everything. Over to you, Rachel.
Thank you. Coming back over to you, Georgia, it's quite similar to the raw feeding question we had with Jessica, but it's any advice on formulating raw food diets for weight loss programs?
Yeah, sure. And I think reading this question, what I wanted to touch on first of all is formulating for weight loss full stop is actually really difficult. So to be able to restrict the calories, but to be able to have enough nutrients in there, the margins are actually pretty small, even with the, specialist weight management foods that we have out there. The margins get even smaller if we're using the wrong types of food. So trying to use something like a light diet instead of a weight management diet to reduce foods, we know we get nutrient deficiencies after a few weeks of doing that. So nutrient deficiency is a real risk. Then we think about raw foods and the problems that we know we have with it. So as Nicola has already said, we first of all worry about pathogen risk, both to the pet and to the owner and anyone else who comes in contact with that pet. And then we have nutrient deficiency risks also. So I think coupled together with that, plus the lack of evidence and lack of knowledge that we have on those type of diets, I really personally feel that ethically I could not either attempt to formulate, a raw diet for weight loss. If an owner was very, very set on wanting to feed this type of diet, we have to work with them. We can't just send them back out the door. We have to try and help them the best we can. And so my advice here is to ask a veterinary clinical nutritionist to formulate that diet for them. But I know that even the clinical nutritionists will say to them, if nothing else, please can you try and cook these ingredients, because the pathogen risk is so high. And such a concern. Yes, we can balance a raw diet, but we can't get rid of that pathogen risk, even with really high levels of hygiene and that sort of thing. The only other possibility, and I don't think one exists, and please someone correct me if I'm wrong, is, as Jessica touched on, actually some of the commercially manufactured raw foods are going to add another layer of safety for us for using those types of diets. It's not foolproof, and certainly we still see pathogen problems with those commercial diets, but it is an extra layer of safety that could be added. So I don't believe there is currently one being made for weight loss specifically, but that is potentially an area that you could explore with a pet owner. But for me, as far as formulating a raw diet, I would be asking the clinical veterinary nutritionist to do this for me.
Great stuff. Right, we're kind of actually running out of time, which is good and a bad thing, because the chat's been brilliant. You guys have been amazing. Quick one for you before Rachel comes to finish off with the final question. Just we know this is a massive issue in the UK because we are here in the UK, and it's been some fascinating conversation around this subject. But is it as big a thing in Australia, and is there as much emphasis put on it out there, Jessica?
I think it's growing. I think it was particularly obesity. If we just look at obesity, that has definitely, probably in the last 5 to 6 years, I think really become a focus in a lot of clinics and for clients as well. I think clients are a lot more aware that obesity is such a problem, and they are a bit more receptive to when we have those discussions with them. There have been a lot of campaigns as well, both on TV and in clinic, that I think have improved that awareness as well. But if we just look at nutrition, I only started in the industry 10 years ago, and just in those 10 years, I think it's really gone like really, really, really popular just over those last 10 years. So I think now I feel like I'm having a lot more sort of high level discussion with clients than I would have 5 years or even 2 years ago. I think they're a lot more knowledgeable about it, and they're also wanting to ask us a lot of questions. They're a lot more confident to reach out to us and want our opinion on things as well.
Fantastic. And Rachel was going to ask this question, but I just warn you guys, you've got 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's a quick fire round. So what would be your one take-home message for our delegates to help clients manage the weight of their pets and maintaining healthy nutrition? So Jessica, we'll come to you first.
Yeah, I think my main take home is just think of it as a healthy swap rather than a diet. I think clients, as soon as they hear the word diet, they panic and they think, oh my God, my pet's going to be begging, they're going to be crying for food all the time, and they're going to be hungry. When I talk to clients, I say, if we just swap this out with something that will be more beneficial to your pet, I think that really gets over that sort of stress about, I'm going to have to put my pet on a diet.
Wonderful. Georgia?
Mine's very simple. Weigh them again. That's it from me.
Good answer.
Brilliant. And Nicola?
I would say get to know the client, get to know the pet, because if you know them and you know the pet, you can identify the potential hurdles, the potential pitfalls and stuff. So understand them, see where they're coming from, and then you can head off the problem before it actually starts.
Fantastic. You guys have been amazing, but we're not quite finished yet because we haven't got time to take live questions, although I've noticed there's been quite a few questions asked and answered on the chat, which is what that's there for. But I'm sure everyone's been waiting with bated breath for the winner of the challenge, which Rachel's going to do now.
Yep, so we've got the entries on the screen there, just some of the entries we've had. I mean, oh, they all make me smile so much. Look at these happy pets waiting for their treat. But the winner should be coming up on the next slide. So this is Cookie, and it was sent in, I hope I pronounce your name right, Jitka Hamplova. I'm sorry, I'm sure I haven't got that right. But this is Cookie, and she has a hunt, catch and kill routine that she does, and then she gets it with Willie the worm. That's who she's got there on the left, and then she knows she gets her treat afterwards. And I just love how she's there in the cupboard waiting for that treat.
Yeah, fantastic.
So well done, Jitka.
And now our ever popular top tips section. We had loads again this month, so thank you all for sending those in, but there can be only 2 winners. And they are, here we go, Catherine Gunn. When starting weight loss plans, play hide and seek games with the food around the house. You get practical low impact exercise for your dog. And also congratulations to Evie Tumman. Cut a hole in the middle of an incontinence sheet and pop the head of the patient through to work as a bib for a dental. Great advice. You guys will be getting £50 vouchers winging your way from our wonderful marketing team. And our final section is over to you, Rachel.
Yep, on to the Pay It Forward winner. So you've got our nominations up on the screen there. Just some lovely comments from you all about your colleagues. It's always so tough to pick a winner, but this month our winner is, just wait for it to pop up on the screen. Our winner is Will Perks. And he was nominated by Joanne Collins, who said he is our head nurse and he is just amazing. He's a brilliant nurse and he looks after all the nurses. So that's wonderful. Well done, Will. And we'll make sure that you get something wonderful in the post.
Yeah, well done, Will, and to all our winners tonight. And I just want to say thank you before we go to Jessica, Georgia and Nicola. You guys were brilliant. We stretched it out a bit there with the chat, but I think we could have probably gone for another hour. So I think we'll probably come back to this. We'd love to have you all on again. That was absolutely incredible. So thank you. Thanks as ever to our amazing tech team. That's Ebony and Katie, who's helping us out this month. Thank you to Bought by Many, but most of all, and this is from both of our hearts, thank you to you guys, the delegates who come along and make this such a worthwhile experience to all of us. It's been incredible. We're always knocked back by the interaction we get and the engagement we get, and we're not sure when the next one's going to be. We have maybe something planned for December, maybe January. It kind of depends on a few issues, but we are going to be back. So watch your social media feeds for details of the next happy hour, because it's going to be a good one. I think we're doing telemedicine, so keep your eyes peeled for that one. And thank you all for coming. And if we don't see you before, have an amazing Christmas as well, because that's looming around the corner, isn't it? So thank you.
Thank you all so much.
And it'd be great because a lot of you said you wanted CPD, and this is CPD. The panel and the interview you just heard was top quality, unbiased CPD from across the globe. So please, in the chat, just share your one top takeaway that you have heard today, because knowledge is only power when you put it into action. So what thing have you thought about? You think, oh, I'm going to try that, perhaps personally with your own pets, or, you know, in your clinics, or in your locuming, or in your writing, or whatever it is that you do as a nurse. So just pop into the chat your top takeaway. So I think that's a really nice way to kind of round off this session as well.
Good shout, Ebony. Maybe we should start doing CPD certificates as well.
Yeah.
Could be a thing. One thing at a time, I guess. But yeah, well, that was good.
Yeah, and thank you all for participating as well in the chat box. We will be picking a winner at random for a £25 voucher for engaging with us. So again, keep an eye on social media because we'll announce that next week.
And sadly, no giant crocodile this month, though,
No,
is there?
I'm afraid not. No.
Gustav has, we can assure you, all gone to a good home in Wisbeach, which is in Cambridgeshire.
Well, he will be going very soon, I believe. Yeah.
He's still in our office at the moment in a rather large box, but he is heading out that way soon.
Yeah.
Just need to find someone to take him over there.
There's some great stuff coming through here. I take away listening to owners and having individual approach to each. Using the wording can make a massive impact on how the client takes the information. Having more frequent clinics, so 2 weekly clinics as well. So that's really, really great.
Fantastic. Shall we close it down then, Ebs?
Yeah.
And we will see you all soon.
And enjoy your